Okay, gewaltig. So we're up to the Mishnah on Mem Heil and Beis. Zog the Heilige Mishnah. Hamoitzi es ishtoi mishum shemra. If someone divorces his wife, because Rashi says sheyotza aleh laznus, rumors were being passed around about her that she was promiscuous. The halach is lo yachzer. You're never allowed to marry this woman again. What about mishum neder? What if a woman made a neder and the husband says, I don't want to be married to a woman who's making a Durham? Again, lo yachzer, he's never allowed to take her back. And Rashi tells us, lo yachzer, even if it turns out that the rumor was unfounded, she was squeaky clean, or they were matter neder, so there's no neder anymore, it's still usher for him to take her back. The time of Peligi Ba'amiroy, we're going to soon see in the Gemara that there's actually a machloikis as to why this is the case. One mandamar holds a promise kulkula. So, for instance, he thought his wife had a bad reputation, so he gave her a get, and then it turns out later that it was wrong. But in the meantime, she goes and marries somebody else, and she has children. He's going to come and say, "Oy vey, had I known that the rumor was not true, I would have never given you a get." And now the get's going to be bottled, and her children are going to be mamzer. So because of that, they tell him, once you divorce this woman, you're never getting her back. Rabbi Yehuda says, no, I disagree. I disagree that we're worried about kilkul. Rather, kol neder sheyodu b'rabim lo yachzer. A neder that was done in public, that you can't even be shoyel to a chacham. So you can never get out of that neder. Such a neder, if he gives her a get for such a neder, then he could never take her back because the neder will never be removed. But if it's a neder that it could be shoyel, there it's yachzir because he's not worried about kilkel. He's not worried about kilkel. Rabbi Yehuda holds the reason why there's a concern here is only because it's a ma'isa perutza. It's not a nice thing for a woman to just make these big prohibitive nedarim. And since we want to discourage women from making such nedarim, we let them know that it's going to cost them their marriage. Rabbi Meir, here's a third sheet. He holds kol neder shetzarich hakiras chacham la yachzer. When is there a problem of a neder that a woman makes? That's only if it needs chakiras chacham. And the reason for that is because he'll say, had I known that I could be mater for neder by being shel to a chacham, I would never have given her a get. But if he could be made for the neder himself, yachzer, then he could take her back. Because he's never going to say, if I would have known that could be made for her, I wouldn't have divorced her. Every man knows the halacha that he could be made for his wife's neder. Amar Rabbi Lazar argues with Rabbi Meir, and he said, there is no reason to say lo yachzir if she needs chakiras chacham. You know why? Because a man would never let his wife go be shoyel by a chacham. It's very humiliating. You have to open up your whole life and share all these details. Rabbi Eliezer says we never let a woman go to be shoyel by a chacham. So if she makes a neder that needs sheilas chacham, it's never going to be nullified, and therefore it's for sure a good get, and therefore there wouldn't be a problem, and he would be able to take her back. The only reason why they answered that is because if there's a neder that he could be made for, there he's going to say, oh, if I would have known that could be made for, I would have never given her. And now we have a story that has nothing to do with the Mishnah, and the Gemara is going to explain what it's doing here. Amar Rabbi Yosy Rabbi Yehuda, Ma'aseh b'Tzidain, once upon a time in the city of Tzidain, ve'echad she'amar le'ishtoi, someone who told his wife, Koinim, I'm making a neder, im eini megarshayich, if I'm not going to be megarif. V'gersha, he kept his word, and he gave her a get. V'tiru loy chachamim, the chachamim allowed she'yachzirena, that he should take her back, m'bnei oil. So the Gemara is going to ask, the Mishnah is talking about her making a neder. Now it's mixing in him making a neder. What does this story have to do with it? Okay, so let's get back to our side. A man divorces his wife because she made a neder. A man divorced his wife because she there was a bad rumor going around about. Amr Rabbi Yosef Bar Minyome, Amr Rabbi Nachman. This that we say that there's a problem, that he's going to say, oh, I never meant to give you the get, and the get's bottle. That only if he was very clear when he gave her get why he's giving her the get. If he can't just say later, oh yeah, I gave the get and the get's bottle, no. But if when he gave the get, he made it very clear that I'm only giving it to you under the assumption that you have a Shem Ra, but if I find out that it's fine, I want you back, then you have a problem if in fact the rumor goes away. Turning on to Daf Mem Vav Amar Aleph. Zok Tehele Gemara. Or he said, Mishum Neder Nimotziach. I'm only divorcing you because you made a net. Kasavar, this sheet holds, Time Omai, what is the reason why we don't let him marry her back again? Mishum Kilkula, because we're concerned that he will say later on that it's not a good get and it's going to cause Kilkul. So therefore, Amar Lahachi, if he stated that he's giving her a get based on this understanding that she made Nadarim, that she was promiscuous, Matim Akakala, then he'll be able to claim later on that he never meant to give the get. But if he didn't specify, I'm giving you the get for this reason, then the assumption is that he's just giving a get. And if he just gives a get, he can't just say I made a mistake. And therefore, Matim Akakala. That was the first version of how to understand the Mishnah. But in Ika da Amri, there was another version. Amr Rabbi Yosef Bar Minyumi Amr Rabbi Nachman. Saruch sheyomer la. He has to tell her. Not that if he doesn't tell her, it changes anything. But lechatchila saruch sheyomer la haviyadas. You should know. You know why you're getting this get? Because of your shemra or mushum neder animotziach. Kasavar, this sheet who holds that the halacha that lo yachzer is no matter what, whether or not he said it, holds the time of my, the reason why we don't let him marry her again, or we don't by nedarim or by laws, is kedei shelo yehu b'nois Yisrael prutzos b'arayis u'b'nedarim. It's a knas, a woman who makes nedarim, a woman who is promiscuous, we're punishing her. And therefore, we don't let her ever come back to her husband. You should tell her this is the reason why you're getting divorced. But avada, the knas is there whether or not you spoke of it. Tanya kalishna basra, Tanya kalishna kama, Tanya kalishna brasra. We actually have a brisa that supports both lashonos. Tanya kalishna kama, that it's because of kilkul. Amar Rab Meir said, if Neima Amar Rab Moitzi Eseshte Mishum Shemra Lo Yachzir Umishum Neder Lo Yachzir. It's Shema Telech V'Tinasi La'acher. She might end up getting married to somebody else based on this get. And we're going to find out that she was not promiscuous. She's clean. But Yomer and the husband's going to say, "Oh, Yvei, Ilu Hayisi Yodea Shekenu. Had I known that this woman was taka pure and clean, even if someone would have given me a huge amount, 100 mana, I never wanted to give her a get. The nimtzot comes out, get bottle uvanem amzer. Come to the gets bottle, and now this second marriage that she had is an illegal marriage, and her children mamzer. Therefore, I'm when they tell them, how you should know. It's irrevocable. And if he does it anyway, if he really wants her and he's only divorcing her because of these circumstances, and they tell him, we're warning you, you're never going to be able to take her back, well then, if he really is only divorcing her because of that, he was like, you know what, before I jump the gun and pull the trigger, maybe I should investigate and clarify first. The fact that
why didn't they make it takana that when you give a get, you have to say why you're giving the get?
Well, in this case, he is.
No, because of this. Because of this, they would say every time you give a get, you have to give a get. Not you have to say this or nechter von nechtem.
But
You
that
have to
makes
say
it
the
even worse.
reason.
That means if he tells her, I'm only giving you the get because you made a nether, then he can say later on, oh, if I would have known, I would have never given you the get. If I'd have known that we could be shoyl on the nether, I would never give you the get. That actually makes it into a bigger problem. So therefore, we have to tell him that this is irrevocable. If you're going to go through this get now before you clarify it, then it's irrevocable. And if he still is willing to go through with it, it proves to us that he might be using the get as an excuse, but he's really wanting to give her get no matter what.
So why don't we say? So why don't we say that every time a person gives a get, he has to do all his homework beforehand, because once you give the get, that's final.
I don't think they can, but it's not true. A normal person who gives a get, he can reconsider and take his wife back. The halacha is normally you're allowed to take your wife back, right? Mr. Toder did it. It's only in this case where we're concerned that the get will be bottled. But normally we have to let people marry their wives back. Verkehrt, machshav b'shas is a mitzvah.
Okay.
So Tanya Kalish Nebraska. We also have a brisa that seems to support that it's not because of kilkel, it's because of pritzusa. It's a knas. Omar Belezer Rabbi Yossi, Omar Amoiches Ishtem Mishum Shemra Lo Yachzer, Mishum Neder Lo Yachzer. It shalo Yehu Benois Yisrael Prutois Barais and the door. We want to make sure that they take Arais and the door very seriously. Therefore, they tell him to let her know why she's getting this get. And beautiful. Now we're going to go to the second part of the mission where Rabbi Yehuda made a statement. Rabbi Yehuda Omer called neder sheyoidi b'rabim lo yachzer v'shelo yodu b'rabim yachzer. And we say Rabbi Yehuda clearly holds that the reason is because of pritzusa, not of kilkel. But Rabbi Yehuda made a statement that a neder that was made b'rabim, you can't even be shoyel b'achach. Where did Rabbi Yehuda get this from? That a neder made b'rabim, you cannot be shoyel b'achach. Amr Rabbi Shua ben Levi, my time with Rabbi Yehuda. Where did Rabbi Yehuda get this from? The Chsiv, it says that when the Gavonim came in the days of Yeshua, they said they're coming from a faraway land, and they extracted a promise from the Nesiei Ha'eda that they will not kill them. And then once it was revealed that these were really Gavonim and this was a scam, and they were really from the Eretz Sheva Amim and they needed to be killed, V'lohikum b'nei Yisrael. Nevertheless, Klal Yisrael didn't kill them. Ki nishbu lahem Nesiei Ha'eda. Because the Nesiei Ha'eda already promised. So you see, since it was promised al das rabbim and see him in public, made a promise, it prevented them from being shoyal on their shvua, and they weren't able to kill these people. So you have a raya that neder b'rabbim you cannot be shoyal on. The rabbanon hold you could be shoyal on the neder b'rabbim. So why is it that they didn't kill him? Zok Gemara, first of all, there it's not even a shvu in the first place. Also, michal a shvu eliyahu. Well, the shvu is not even chal because the whole shvu was made on a mistaken premise. Even the Amr Lahu, the Eretz Rechaika Banu, since they were lied to, the Gavanim said they were coming from a faraway land. V'leibo, and it's not true. They didn't come from a faraway land. So they extracted a shvua, but the shvua has no validity because it was only based on the fact that they're a different nation. Therefore, lechayish really are cloud. So if there's no shvua, why Taka didn't they go and kill these Gavanim? Everyone holds Yidden to a higher standard. We don't need to go and saying that we lied to them. So therefore, even though technically there was no shvua, but because of our high level of integrity, we didn't kill them. The Kama Rabbi Yehuda said that a shvua made by rabbim, you cannot be shoyla. How many people need to be there to be considered a rabbi? Rav Nachman Amar Gimel, 3 people. Rav Yitzchak Amar Asara, 10 people. Zok to Gemara, Rav Nachman Amar Gimel, Yom and Beis, Rabbim Beis. By Ziva, we learned that a woman who sees Ziva 3 days in a row is a Zava Gedoyla. Because it says V'isha ki yazav dama yomim rabbim. And from rabbim we learn it means 3 days. So rabbim means 3. So therefore, the definition of rabbim is 3. If you have to cover to Asara, it's 10 people, the Chsiv Eda. It says that who swore to them? Nisiyei Eda. And we know from the Adas Koyach that an Eda is 10 people. Reb Meir Eda, Kol Neder Shetzorach. So Reb Meir said, if it needs a Torah's Chacham, that's when there's a problem. Rabbi Loza said, no, there's no problem with a neder that needs a Torah's Chacham. It's only also because of a regular neder. Tanya Rabbi Loza Reimer and Osru, Torah, they didn't answer a neder that needs Shelas Chacham, Elam Mipnei Sheini Torah. Only because we're answering a neder that doesn't need Shelas Chacham, that the husband could be made for. But my commitment, what is a mach like this? Rabbi Meir Sover Adam Reicha Shet Nisbaz Ishtei Bebesin. Rabbi Meir says, not Adam Reicha. Rashi teaches it means a person doesn't care. A person doesn't mind if his wife goes to Bezdin to be shoyal on a neder, even though it's a very humiliating experience. And therefore, we're afraid that will happen. But Rabbi Lezer Sover, ain't Adam Reicha Shet Nisbaz Ishtei Bebesin. A person would never say, if I would have known my wife could be matan neder, I would have never made the get. Because I wouldn't have wanted my wife to be matan neder. Because I wouldn't want her to have that humiliation of going to Bezdin. So therefore, there's no chashash that he's going to regret it. Amar Rabbi Yosy bar Yehuda, Maisa b'tzida. Now the Gemara asked, my Tana, the Ketani Maisa. Who's discussing anything about a man making a neder that we're bringing a story about a man who made a neder? So Gemara, you're right. We need to add to the Mishnah because the Mishnah actually does discuss a case of a man making a neder. That you cannot take your wife back. If she made a neder. Although another ew, but if he made a neder, yachzir, then he could take his wife back. Someone told his wife, I'm making a neder, if I don't give you a divorce. And he kept his neder, begirsha. Nevertheless, the Chacham let him take her back. So now the Gemara needs to delve into this story. What exactly happened? So let's turn out to Amud Beis. My koinim, exactly what was the koinim that he made? Because a shvua, you could swear, I'm going to divorce your wife. How do you make a neder to divorce your wife? A neder only answers something upon you. He said, I'm the Kabbalah policy of an Isser. All the parish should be also to me if I don't give you a get. And that compelled him to give the get. And he gave the get, and the tiralosh yachsirena. Why can't he take her back? There's no reason in the world why, if he gave her a get, he can't take her back. So tomorrow, no, there would be a tzad, a havamina, that they should punish him and counsel him for making a neder. Rab Nosson taught us a rule. The Tanya Rab Nosson Neimer hanoider ki'ilu bona bama. Someone who makes a neder, it's like he built a bama, which is an isser when you're not allowed to build bamas. From a kaimo, and if you keep the neder and you're not showing on the neder, ki'ilu hikru bala carbon. It's like you double down on your isser and you brought a carbon on a bama that's usser. So you might think since he made a neder, we're going to punish him and we're not going to let him get his wife back. The mach malon that we don't punish. What do you mean the tikkun ha'olam? There is no takana here. We leave it as is, and we let him take her back. So my tikkun ha'olam miko. What type of tikkun ha'olam is there relevant to the story? Amar B'Sheishes Areisha, explaining under Reisha. If the tikkun ha'olam is going back to the story where the woman made a neder, or where the woman had a laz of znus, and they can't marry their wives again, but they tikkun ha'olam. Ravina Amar no, ha'olam ha'sefer. It's going on the sefer where there's no takana. What the Mishnah means to say, there's no reason to prevent him from marrying his wife because there's no takana that's necessary here. And therefore, what it means is we don't do it. We don't answer him to his wife because of tikkun olam, because there is no tikkun olam to answer him to his wife. Now, just review. Rabbi Yehuda in the previous Mishnah held that it was yaksir, there was no gzeira, and the Tanakama held it was lo yaksir. Now we have a case where it's exactly the opposite. Someone gave his wife a get because she was in the islands. Correct Rashi, why would you need to give your wife a get? Is it not a mekach tolos? Zok Rashi, no. When someone marries an islandess, he has in mind that even if she's an islandess, I want her. Why would he have that in mind? Because then, if it turns out that the whole thing was a mekach tolos, it turns out that all his bios with her were bias nus. Nobody wants to make their bia into a bia snus. And therefore, Deep down inside, he was masking to marry her anyway, but he's allowed to give her a get. So Rabbi Yehuda Omer lo yachzir. He's never allowed to take her back. And the reason why he's never allowed to take her back, because what if she remarries somebody else and it turns out that she has a baby with somebody else? He's going to say, oy vey, and I know that you might be able to have a baby, I would have never divorced you. And then it's going to cause the same kill. The Chacham said there's no concern about that kill. Nizis lacher, what if she ended up marrying somebody else? She gave birth to him. So now she's going to say, originally you divorced me and you didn't want to give me the ksuba because I was an islandess, but look, I had children, so I want my ksuba now. V'tevas ksubasa. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi said, you tell her, for your own good, keep your mouth shut and don't make that taviyah. You're better off keeping your mouth shut, because by complaining that you want ksuba, you're making your life even more difficult. Because now he's going to say, had I known that I would have to pay your ksuba, I would never have divorced you. And now he's really going to mess you up. So better keep your mouth shut and be happy that your get is a good get and your second marriage works. Zok to Gemara, from this mission, it seems to indicate, remember, Rabbi Yehuda chayish l'kol for Rabbanan lo chayish l'kol. Because Rabbi Yehuda said, lo yachsir, the Chacham said yachsir. But if you look at the previous mission, it's exactly the opposite. By Ibcha Shemein Lu, did not we learn, Hamonti Esishto Mishum Shemra, lo yachsir, Mishum Neder lo yachsir, which was the Tanakama. And Rabbi Yehuda in there called Neder Shia Di Baravim lo yachsir. V'shelo Yoda Baravim yachsir. Alma, you see the opposite, that Rabbanan are chayish l'kol, and Rabbi Yehuda is chayish l'kol kula. Our Mishnah, no problem. Epuch, switch around our Mishnah and say that Rabbi Yehuda holds your not chayshish and the Chacham hold your chayshish. Correct the Gemara, but the Mishnah has another Rabbi Yehuda in it. At the end of the Mishnah, and this is la'achar. And what did Rabbi Yehuda say there? So once again, you see that there is the problem of kilkol. That he's going to be, that the get will be bottled of Mafreya. Michlal Rabbi Yehuda chayish l'kol kula. So tomorrow, no problem. Hanami epoch. Change the Mishnah. That's not Rabbi Yehuda talking. It's the Chacham talking. Abaye Omer no lo elotet. Really, Rabbi Yehuda holds like he holds over here that you were chayish l'kol kula. But there's a special reason why in the last Mishnah there was no concern. Rabbi Yehuda bahi savar l'kar Meir v'savar l'kar Belazar. He holds like the Shita of Rabbi Meir, which we'll soon see what that means, and the other the Shita of Rabbi Elazar. Because of that, there is no chashash. Avad, if there's a chashash, he would be chodesh, and he would say le'achzer. But it happened to be in the previous Mishnah, he disagrees with the chashash. Why? Because b'tzarich, in a case where he needs a chacham, sovelach Rabbi Elazar, he holds like Rabbi Elazar. What did Rabbi Elazar say? That a husband doesn't want his wife to go make a shelas chacham. So therefore, if it's a neder that's tzarich shelas chacham, there's no gzeira of lo yachzir because she's never going to get a heter for an eder. And b'she'enim tzarich, what about edim tzarich? There it could have been mefer. So like Reb Meir or Reb Meir holds, you can never say if I would have known that I could be mefer, I would have been mefer. You knew you could be mefer. There's no such thing as a husband not knowing that it could be mefer. So therefore, there is no possible kilkul there because there's nothing to be concerned about. No matter what type of neder it is, he could never say, had I known we could be mounted in nether, I would have not given the get. So Zok Gemara, very good. You forever the steer in Rabbi Yehuda. But isn't there a steer in the Rabbanan as well? Amar Rabbi Yehuda, the Yehuda Kasha, the Rabbanan, the Rabbanan like Kasha. How are you going to have the Rabbanan? That in our Mishnah, the Rabbanan say don't be chayshish for kilkul, and the last Mishnah the Rabbanan are chayshish. How do you explain that? Amar Rabba, you're right. Rabbi Yehuda, the Yehuda like Kasha, could do the Shadina, like we answered. That Rabbi Yehuda in the previous Mishnah holds like Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Elazar. The Rabbanan are the Rabbanan like Kasha. It's not fair under the Rabbanan either. Because really the Rabbanan hold that you have to be geyser, like he is in the first Mishnah. But in our Mishnah, you know why the Chacham say, you know why the Chacham say in our Mishnah you're not geyser? Because Ma Chacham Rabbi Meir do Amar Ba'inin Tanai Kafum. If someone says, I'm giving a get because you're an islandess, the get's good whether or not she's an islandess. The only time he can say that it shouldn't be a good get is if he made it nakafel. I'm giving you a get if it's an islandess, but if you're not an islandess, I'm not giving you a get. He didn't say that. And therefore, no matter what, the get is a good get, and he cannot undo the get. Beautiful. Now the next one. What if somebody sells himself together with his children to be servants, to be slaves for a guy? That's not a good thing to do, and therefore ain't paid in eyesight. You don't redeem him. Too bad for him. After their father dies, you will redeem the children. And Rashi tells us in Amar Aleph that the reason for this is because we're afraid these children will never know they're Jewish. They'll grow up like Goyim and they'll live like Goyim. As long as their father's alive and he's together with them in captivity, he's always teaching them what he needs to teach them. But once he dies, they don't want to teach them anymore. There's a chash, there's a concern that they're going to be.
As einer verkauft sich und seine Kinder zu a Goy, deserves to be an Eved.
That's exactly what the Gemara says. Amar Avasi, if he only did it once, okay, we'll bail him out. But if he did it 3 times, he's a troublemaker. He's just doing it to take advantage. He'll tell himself, help me. Such a person we don't help. There were people from the city of Bemichsi, they borrowed money from a guy, and they didn't have money to pay back. So the goyim came and took them and the children as slaves. So they came to Rabhuna, help us. Also, the Rabhuna said, what can I do for you? It's Nan, we just learned our Mishnah. Amalei Rababa told Rabhuna, but that's only if they're doing it over and over again. This happened just once. Amalei Rabhuna said, no. These people do this again and again. There's actually a silent Rishonim. Doesn't mean they got taken because they didn't pay off a loan 3 times. There are those who learn, even if this is the first time they got taken, but they kept on borrowing money from a guy who they knew would do that to them. That's also enough. If you borrow from a guy and you put yourself into peril, you deserve it, and we're not going to bail you out. A guy sold himself to cannibals. Now he's going to become dinner. So now he's panicked. He's going to get killed. You came to Ramami. He told him, save me. So let's turn on to the next Amud. We have a very interesting Gemara. Amar, he said, Tanan, we learned in the Mishnah, so surely you should redeem us because we're going to get killed. The Rabban told Rabami, how could you bail him out? This fellow is a lahakasnik. He's a lahakasnik, violates the Torah. We saw him. So we should bail a guy out like this. We should bail the trevos. Who said he's a woman lahakis? He's like a min. Maybe he was starving. He ate because he had no choice. They told him no. We've seen him where he had the option to eat kosher or treif. He ate the answer even though he had the option to eat heter. So the Rav told him, I'm sorry, my item is not letting me redeem you because you're a lowlife, and therefore we're not going to redeem. Now, if you read self-defense manuals, what happens if someone breaks into your house in the middle of the night and you're afraid he has a weapon? You don't have any weapons. What should you do? So you know what they tell you to do? They tell you to take a pillowcase and fill it up with a couple of cans of soda, and then you could swing it at him, and if you give him that clap, you can kill him. So based on that knowledge, let's see a beautiful Gemara with Rish Lakish. Rish Lakish zaman nafshe l'ledoi. Rish Lakish, before he did tshuva, when he was still a gangster, he sold himself to these cannibals, and he only did it as a ploy. He wanted to kill him once and for all. So what he took with him as his luggage, he took a little sack, like a pillowcase, and it had in it a rock, heavy boulder. Omar, he said, I know for a fact, Gemiri, the Yom Basra, the day that they kill you, called the boy Minayu Avdile. They give you your last wish, and they grant you your last wish. Why do they do that? Rashi says it means, so you should be mindful the fact that they're killing you. If they're nice to you, then you'll be mindful of the fact that they're killing you. But other Rishonim say that when you kill somebody and they're upset and they're stressed, they don't taste good. Their blood doesn't taste good. So they wanted the person to be calm and relaxed when they would kill him, so he should taste good. Yoima Basra, Amrulay, so the same thing, on the day that they're going to kill him, they asked him, "My nichalach, what is your last wish?" Amrulu, he told him, "I'll tell you what I want. Be'ina akmetindhu, I want to tie you all up. Voice vindhu, to sit you down on the floor. The kolchad minayu, and each one of you, each one of you, I want to hit you with my pillowcase." Like they thought he was crazy, what a crazy game. So they said, "Okay, no problem. Continue." He tied him up, but as soon as he sat on the floor, when Rish Lakish gave each guy has a zetz in the cup with that rock in his pillowcase, the guy dropped dead instantly. Novak Nishmase, but it rattled his mouth and it made it look almost like the victim was still alive and smiling. Rish Lakish told him, "You're still laughing? Be upon me. Don't forget, I'm not finished with you. I'm still going to give you another half a zets." At the end of the day, Petlinu Kulu, he killed them all. Nafak V'asa, and he left. So this is the story how Rish Lakish killed a band of cannibals. On another note, a completely separate story about Rish Lakish. Yosef Ka'achel B'Shasim. He would sit, eat, and drink, and Rashi says he would deplete any money that he has. He would never put anything away. Whatever he had, he used and he spent. Amalei Barti, his daughter told him, "Leibos midi lemizgalai. Don't you want a mattress or a pillow to sit on? You're sitting there on the floor." Amalei, he told her, repeating my daughter, "Crazy curry. My belly is my pillow." And even though you're normally not allowed to lie on your stomach, a very heavy person is allowed to lie on his stomach. Kinach Navche, when Rish Lakish died, he left over kamat nothing to his kids. Shavet kava de marika, he left a kav of a certain spice. It's grada, a very expensive spice. I believe it costs $10,000 an ounce. It's I forget what it's called. It's a spice from Iran. Rashi is called karcha, but I forgot the word for it. Kara nafshe, even that little bit that he left over to his children, he felt bad about. The azul acherim chelam, they abandoned their chel for somebody else. Now the Mefarshim tell us that Vibal Rish Lakish was a gangster, and he caused so much damage to so many people. How could he even pay them all back? But he wanted to do the tshuva, he wanted to pay back. So because of that, every spare penny he had, he donated to public causes so that hopefully the people that he hurt would have benefit from it. If he made a bathhouse, then maybe the person would use the bathhouse. If he made a street, could be the person would use the street. And this was how he was hoping to make up, to do tshuva for what he did before. And that's why he was so upset that, "Oh, look, I have a kav marika. I could have gotten more kapara by giving this to the public as well." Okay, Baruch Hashem, we finished Daf Mem Vav. We're even on a little bit of the Daf Mem Zayin. So everyone should have a good tavach, and a mazel tavach, and a simcha tavach, and a bracha tavach.
You're learning tomorrow.
Bez Hashem, yeah, at 7 and at 9.
Okay.
Okay, have a wonderful week, a wonderful week, and a happy